in the dry too, but in the rain, Mansell has won many, many races. You have to be very delicate, have that deft touch with the brakes and the throttle to be fast and to last.
Gary Gerould has an update on Nigel.
Interesting. Now, we couldn't see him as you're watching the video of him tiptoe around the course, but when he came in and made the change, he wanted them to take some wing out at the front. Normally, when you go to the wets and you've got the rain situation, you need the downforce. They put wing in. Now we understand from radio conversations that maybe they need to make the change back. So he's kind of compounded the situation, and that deft touch is really being challenged right now.
Gary, given all of that and the fact that they last stopped about 17 to 20 laps ago, what do you think the pit stop strategy will be for the remainder of the race now?
Well, we heard from the Penske camp that they're looking at about a mid-80s, around 84, 85 for a stop for Emerson Fittipaldi. Keep in mind that Nigel went a few more laps beyond what Fittipaldi did before he made the change going to the wet tires.
Yes, Nigel came out of the pits 13 laps ago, Fittipaldi 17.
The rain that you see is exactly what's on his visor. He does not have the luxury, though, of the visor being able to clear that rain away. And here is final confirmation that we found an owner of that errant wing right here, and it does belong to Willie T. Ribbs.
And not likely to stop and pick it up. A quick spin by Mike Groff, and he's back on the course. Remember, this is the True Sports car from the past. Now the Ray Hall Hogan car, still under development. Much expected out of this car, and its future expected to carry a Honda engine.
He has been testing the Honda engine. In fact, he spent 3 days at Indianapolis last week testing the Honda. It sounds fantastic. He did 219 miles an hour in very much a race and a test trim. So Mike Groff very excited. He said it is every young driver's dream to ever think he could drive alongside somebody of the caliber of Bobby Rahal. So I'm glad to see that Mike Groff, having struggled to find a clear path for his career, has finally settled into a proven IndyCar driver.
Mike Groff runs in 9th place now. The rain continues to fall. It is still Fittipaldi at the front, and he is unchallenged. Another car off the circuit.
Marco Greco is not going to take any further part. This is the Team Losi car run by Dennis McCormick from Indianapolis, and he's stalled the engine. We mentioned it earlier. You have to keep the engine running because it's so difficult to push start these cars and drop the clutch and get the wheels spinning to get the wheels turning to start the engine.
The 99 car is Brian Till. He runs in 11th place. Just ahead of him, Olivier Griard. It's not a battle for position, but it's a good run for Brian Till in his first race this year. Up to 11th place now.
And he was surprised that he even drove here. Got a phone call from Norm Turley. This is the car that Eddie Cheever drove. Look how close they get here. But Norm Turley called him up, said, do you want to come and drive my car? Brian Till, who's still, in fact, oh, look at this wheel-to-wheel stuff here. But he's still working on his own Robco racing program to get back to Indy cars on a full-time basis for next season.
Again, not a fight for position. Griard runs in 7th place, but it doesn't mean you can't have fun in the rain.
Olivier Griard, coming from France, has driven many, many times in the rain and big cars like Formula One cars in the rain. So he's well used to these type of conditions. It's a Lola versus a Penske, followed by another Lola.
Everyone being very careful now. No one truly in contact with one another for position. There is Paul Tracy. He runs in 2nd as he comes up behind Boesel. Boesel is in 7th. A lap behind the leaders of the race, and when Tracy gets around, he goes even further back. So 67 laps are now complete. The rain continues to fall, but it has brightened just a little bit over on the pit straight. In the mist at Portland, it is Fittipaldi still in front. Paul Tracy rides in 2nd, but look at the red number 5, Nigel Mansell. He is closing down on Paul Tracy and using traffic at the same time to his advantage. That is Griard that separates Tracy and Mansell. As we'll keep an eye on this battle, the race recap after 66 laps with Fittipaldi as the leader and the average speed of the race at 101 miles an hour despite the rain. 3 leaders, 5 lead changes, no full course cautions, though plenty of people off the course. We saw Roberto Guerrero actually get in contact with the wall, but he climbed out of the car and is okay.
Red 5 is in attack mode here. That's Paul Tracy running 2nd, but Mansell is all over him, about to give him trouble. Now look, Mansell gets the bad run in traffic here. He's in fact boxed in behind Willie T. Ribbs and Danny Sullivan. That won't do him any good. Gets the car sideways, under power.
Willie T. sees the circumstance, tries to clear as far to the left as he can to let Mansell by, but Danny Sullivan is still in full race operation, and he is going to run along with Mansell.
Now look at the visibility here. Mansell does not have the luxury, I said it earlier, of the lens clearing. So as the water gathers, he has to somehow look through it. Now it's Ford versus Chevrolet in this drag race down the front straight. Mansell's on the inside, Sullivan is on the outside, and he's beside him, just about able to make the pass. Look how grey and murky that front straight is, and those drivers come down there above 170 miles an hour.
When you have that much moisture on the helmet, Derek, how much is the visibility? Look at him, he almost loses the back end again. What about the inside of the helmet with his breathing? Does it tend to mist up?
The whole key, that's Brian Till. Brian Till gone through the chicane. Hopefully he's kept the engine running. I don't think he has, but the key to being able to see in wet conditions like this is to have airflow under the helmet, air flowing on the inside of the visor, which continues to try and keep the moisture away. Obviously we see that Danny Sullivan did get running again, but look at Bozell. Bozell now is in his mirror.
Bozell right there challenging him.
And you see here, we talk about airflow. Danny Sullivan has actually cracked the front of his helmet, allows air in and back out to the bottom of the helmet, keeping the visor clear so he can at least partially see where he's going.
So Danny Sullivan and Bozell battle. Sullivan, of course, well back at 19th.
It's the
Bozell at 7th.
It's the worst feeling when you cannot clear the mist off the inside of your visor because you daren't make a pit stop, so you try and squint and turn your head and look upside down, look sideways, however you can do it. But it is a scary feeling sometimes when you just can't see when you're traveling above 170 miles an hour.
The straightaway is somewhat foreshortened by the camera's view, but still it gives you an idea how much moisture throwing up off the rear tires of these cars. Gary Gerald.
Paul, we were just checking in, and you're talking about the visibility problems. It would seem like, as race fans, are conscious of vision forward. Interesting that Danny Sullivan, when he was in that traffic, was on his radio wanting to know if there was anybody behind him, because he couldn't tell in the mirrors in the rooster tail if there was somebody that he had to be worrying about off his backside. So it's not only visibility forward, you've got to be concerned about what's on the backside of you as well.
Danny Sullivan and Raul Boesel continue their fight. Nothing changes at the front of the field except that Emerson Fittipaldi is able to pull even further ahead of his teammate Paul Tracy. Fittipaldi now has a 34-second lead over second place Paul Tracy, and for the moment the battle between Tracy and Mansell has broken off.
And that's Emerson's daughter, watches on. She's been here all weekend. Her dad's had his arm around her every time he gets out of the car. But she doesn't look too comfortable there sitting in the rain. A bit miserable, not Brazilian-style weather.
Fittipaldi, by the way, excited. He has been invited to take a ride in an F-18 with the Blue Angels. Now, I happen to go down and take a ride with the Blue Angels in an F-18 just to make sure.
Well, imagine that.
To make sure everything was safe for Emerson. I wanted to make sure that everything was all right. But now he's very close to his ride. And then, if everything works out all right, maybe we'll let you in on this. The new captain of the USS Kitty Hawk, the carrier based in San Diego, Bear Pickavance, has just taken over the carrier, and maybe we can all figure out how to ride. Now, why does Bear Pickavance come into it? Because he's the guy that got to drive Bobby Rahal's car in return for giving Bobby Rahal an F-18 ride. You're the only one that hasn't been in the cockpit, Derek.
Well, imagine that. You're my buddy.
Dave Coudrave on and off the course.
So go on, tell me. Your signed picture's on the wall down there, Paul, isn't it?
No problem. You want to go ride and just talk to your friend.
Yeah.
So at the front of the field, still Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy still in pursuit. No one in the field at all in contact, direct contact for race position. So the rain very definitely a factor here, but one would presume that because of the rain, certainly fuel is no longer a problem either. And they will run to the end. The question is, are they capable of catching Emerson Fittipaldi? Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell will try. Back at the Budweiser G.I. Joe's 200 at Portland, all positions run static. These IndyCar drivers can make handling adjustments to the car's suspension during a race. Jan Bikas tells us how.
During an IndyCar race, it's common for a car's handling to change throughout the duration of the race. So all modern-day Indy cars have driver-adjustable anti-roll bars. What that means is a driver can either stiffen or soften the anti-roll bars, which will change the handling, hopefully making the car faster. The problem is you have to use your left hand. You really want to have both hands on the steering wheel. So if you're taking your right hand constantly off the steering wheel to do your shifting like you would normally do, like on a road circuit, you might go back and forth 30 times a lap. If you had to make an adjustment with the left hand, you'd have nothing left on the steering wheel if you had to shift. The only time you can use your left hand really is at the end of the straightaway when you're in top gear. The other thing that's difficult, it's hard to tell what position you're in on these adjusters. There's 6 different positions. You wouldn't ever want to look down and take your eyes off the road. So on a Penske car, they have contact switches as well as resistors. When you move the lever, what happens is it drives some LED lights that are